Hi, I'm Linda, and this is episode 19 of my experiences dating as a senior. Just when I think I've had a laugh with the last joker out of the clown car, another bozo climbs out. Recently, I was contacted by a man on the dating site who was an hour away. This was the first time I had contact with a separated man. TA was handsome, just a couple years older than me, and reasonably articulate, though I couldn't tell that we had anything in common. Nothing or too little in common causes me stress, because I don't know what we could talk about. It doesn't take very long to run through the basics of our backgrounds. Unfortunately, things in common have not resulted in a long-term relationship. These days, I more consider our attitudes and approach to the everyday world. He mentioned that wanting to restrict my search radius to 30 miles was sensible, but not necessarily realistic, considering the areas we both lived in. And I had to agree. It is just that beyond that distance, it is much more likely the guy is just looking for a hookup. So when he's gotten what he wants, then he won't see me around. We sent quite a few long messages back and forth. I mentioned that when I stay with someone for a few days, I need to bring my cat with me, including her food, litter box, and bed. He said that would not be a problem. I told him I would not have sex with him until I visited him at his place and could see how he lived. If he is hiding something, seeing his place will expose clues. It also helps so I can get an idea of what I'm getting into, like finding out he is a major slob or worse, a clean freak. TA seemed open and sincere, though I really don't trust anyone until I get to know them for a long time. We decided to go ahead and meet up. There was a nice little town halfway between us, so we met at a coffee shop and had a little walk around. I liked his voice and manner and felt I could be seriously attracted to him. My biggest concern was that here was another man who seemed too busy to actually be able to share his life, though he said he would make time for me. He wanted his potential mate to have plenty of her own interests, such that they would not need to spend all their time together. What does that really say? To me, it means he's not that into me, and all he wants is the minimum time required to result in sex. I mentioned that his dating profile said he was just wanting to meet new people. That says to me the man is just looking for a hookup. He said he didn't know he had done that and was actually looking for a relationship, so I took his word for it. I just never actually trusted him. Another red flag came when I asked him if he was wanting to get back with his wife. He shook and hung his head and said he didn't know. I could see that we had a similar attitude to many things. Neither of us no longer took things too seriously. He was nice, and at the end of the date, he kissed me, and he was pretty good. He was hairy all over, as well as a nice head of hair and a soft, short beard. I knew I would like rubbing my fingers through it all, and he wanted that. Over the next few days, we started flirting. I had told myself I was not going to jump into that. He got around my defenses by having a video call with me where he showed me the interior of his house. He also said he would not ghost me if he felt it was not going to work out, but would actually tell me. Quickly, I became stressed with the flirting because it steered the conversation away from getting to know each other better. Though I have jumped into things thinking I would at least enjoy it, it never resulted in anything lasting in the last 4 years. Though I like the intimacy of being touched, the sex just doesn't do anything for me without a commitment. Men may pride themselves on how good they think they are technically, and might get a sense of satisfaction if they think they've pleased the woman. For some reason, they think oral stimulation is the magic touch. The actual magic touch would be him building up my ego, as in him telling me how he appreciated me and things he was interested in about me. What goes on in my head during the act makes all the difference. The way T and I were flirting made me feel I was losing control. Though I wanted to please him, I felt like we would crescendo too quickly. Then, though we might say we would see each other again soon, all I could think was that by the next day, he would suddenly become too busy to spend any time with me. This has happened too many times. What bothered me the most and indicated doom was that I mentioned several of my accomplishments to him, and he had no interest in asking me any details about any of them. There was almost no acknowledgement or compliments. Instead, he would launch into an association regarding himself. He seemed like he was a good listener, but was it really more that he was busy deciding what he would say next? I don't mind building up a man's ego, but it would be nice if he reciprocated. On the second date, he took the train to my town. We had a nice wandering around and a pleasant meal at a local pub. I decided that it would be safe for him to come back to my place, but we would not be having sex. He was fine with that. However, he very much wanted a kiss and a cuddle. He gave me a foot massage, which was nice. I enjoyed his company, though the conversation was largely superficial. We fooled around a bit, and then I took him back to the train station. After that, he didn't seem interested in doing much with emails and messages, and certainly not phone calls. It was difficult to get much real information from him, because as soon as I brought up something, he would launch into a long jabber that ended up going another direction. It didn't seem like he was hiding something, and often he would give me a straight answer if I asked the right question. I knew he had a very nice package, which he claimed was fully functional. He was a naturist and loved going on naked walks and swims with groups of people, so he had sent me a few photos of himself in the wild with just his boots and hat on. For the third date, I invited him over for a DVD movie night and told him to bring his toothbrush. So we watched a movie, got a takeaway meal, and went to bed. There was lots of kissing and cuddling. I liked playing with his very hairy body. I hoped it would come to a decent round of sex. Like too many of the other men I had dated, his medications kept him from doing much, though he kept trying for longer than I cared for. He was on blood thinners, which tend to screw it up every time. We gave it our best shot, but I never got what I wanted from it. The next day we went out for breakfast and he went home. I really didn't think I would hear from him again, especially because he said he would be very busy for several days. I just expressed that I was disappointed it would be a good while before he would see me again. I was surprised when a few days later he wanted to come to see me again and offered to take me for a drive along the coast. When he came to pick me up, we were both hot for each other. I'm sure he would have been quite happy to just spend the day in bed, but we went for a drive anyway. It turned out to be very informative. Pandora's box opened when I asked him when I could visit him at his house. I finally got some answers regarding his separated wife. He would not be inviting me to his place in case I left evidence of having been there. His wife would be returning at some point to visit the kids and grandkids. If she discovered there had been another woman around, she would be very upset. I couldn't understand why he would care until I got deeper into his relationship with her. It was absolutely toxic, but he didn't see it. He lived in hope they could work it out. After all that he said, I was convinced there was no chance of that. Had I known he would never invite me to his place, even without all the details, I never would have met up with him. By him stating early on that my bringing my cat with me when I came down to visit him would be all right was a bold-faced lie, and infuriating, as it implied that I would stay with him at his place. Though his wife's home was on another continent, she thoroughly controlled him with her anger and supposed disappointment in him. I tried to help him see what was going on. She thoroughly crippled him emotionally with constant mental abuse, to which he apparently had no clue. He was at a crossroad regarding her, but he was too paralyzed to make a decision. Often people prefer to stay at the crossroad because it may be safer than making a decision that will result in consequences. What it meant to me was that he would never be free to love me. He was not really interested in a relationship, as he had said. He was just looking for a temporary distraction from his loneliness. I was glad to have gotten that sorted out. Of course, a switch in my head instantly flipped. I told him that I would not be having intercourse with him, nor would I let him play with me sexually. I'm okay with a minor kiss and cuddle, but I have to save something for a real relationship. Though at that point I just wanted him to take me home and leave, he seemed unfazed and still wanted to spend the night. I went along with it, probably because I am too polite. We had a pizza, watched a DVD, and kissed and cuddled once we went to bed. It was all superficially cordial, and he left the next day, seeming okay with it all. After a week of not hearing from him, it was obvious he did exactly what he promised he would not do and ghosted me. I was not at all surprised, as he had exposed himself as a liar. In the future, I will not be dating a man who is separated. A few people warned me not to do it, and I agreed with their reasons, so I did not enter into this blindly. He would never be available emotionally. I will make more of an effort not to get sucked in by a man more than 30 miles away, because it doesn't take long for the cost of travel and the distance to become a burden. And here's the most important bit to take note of. If he won't let you come to his house or flat, regardless of the excuse, he really does have something to hide. When he becomes too busy to see you much, it means he's just not that into you. So gather up your dignity and walk away. At this age, seeing the guy just once a week is not acceptable. This is not someone looking for a real partner. You need to move on and keep looking for the man who will value you and honestly want to be with you as much as possible. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.